Welcome to my thoughts on Young Jedi Adventures Season 2, Episode 18, The Rainy Day Beast / Upgraded. The episode is rated TV 7, I think it is, and so will this video be. There will be spoilers for this show leading up to including this episode, not for any episode that came after. I wouldn't be able to because I haven't watched past this episode yet. And possibly everything Star Wars leading up to it, we'll see. And another episode that has a lot of really great elements. So I want to briefly start with the video recommendation. So, okay, this one, the title, but not necessarily its content, the video's contents. TV 7. So if there is a kid watching this video, I'm trusting you to not actually go and watch the following video, just like recommend it to your parents or legal guardian or something. But the anti-bot video, Gabby Hanna is using faith to manipulate. Since it is Women's History Month, I'm trying to make my at least once per video, when I don't forget, video recommendations, those of women, which does also, and I'm also trying to focus some on talking more about female characters in these, and there's some really great stuff with Liz. The we can really appreciate why she's just, sad that she does not get to see these birds, in person. They're going to migrate. It'll only be these hollow pads. I forget what they're called in Star Wars. And she really didn't mean to mess things up for the Kazi Sloth. And she owns up to it. It was, they wouldn't be out there if not for her. So she should be the one to risk it. I mean, obviously, we don't want children risking their lives, risking their safety at least. But it is also important that you take responsibility when you make a mistake, and that is very crucial to teach children. Don't wait until, because if you try to teach an adult who has not been taught it as a child or maybe a teenager, but even that's pushing it, it can be extremely difficult. I have tried, and I don't know. It just does not seem to stick. Somehow, I've been unable to teach myself to take responsibility. I'm kidding, obviously. It's not easy learning responsibility. I know I struggled when I was a child learning it, but it is really important. And, pieces of media like this can help. And the, let's see. Yeah, this was actually, I didn't know that it would be, but this was a good episode to do for Women's History Month because this first story is very much Liz. She is the protagonist of it, and it once again, as is often, some would say too often, the case for Liz stories on the show, it is very much about this thing of loving and admiring nature, but also respecting that it doesn't belong to us. We exist in symbiosis with it. You must understand that. And so, it's not that every single living thing is cute and cuddly, but if you are being attacked by an animal, it might be because you have scared it or messed something up for it, so yeah. And it was cool seeing, I'll just briefly, 1 second. Zia, Master Zia, she's also familiar with the Kazi Sloth, and then she starts telling them stories, and that is definitely, this is one of those episodes where you can really tell, this was made for children. Like, I remember being a kid and being like, it's raining. I don't know. On this day, I was really hoping that it would be more difficult for me to come up with an excuse to stay inside and play video games all day. But also you're probably not surprised, but yeah, getting to hear a cool story from an adult was, the highlight of the day in certain circumstances. And I think that does pretty much cover the entire first of the stories. So yeah, moving on to Upgrade. And yeah, very much a Kai story. I am a little bit torn. I appreciate this thing of, obviously the argument in favor of Kai going off on his own like that is that this is his, he made a mistake trusting Tabor, so he has to fix it, which I do appreciate. But it is also like, so you're going to go up against Tabor even though you've lost several times, and, this is important. This is about more than just you yourself. I don't know. I feel like maybe it shouldn't have been about that Tabor was going to escape with something that does not belong to him or Kai, but just that Kai was going to confront him about the betrayal. But yeah, obviously it would have been very different if it had not been just the two of them. Just the two of them. And yeah, I maintain that there is some chance, and as by the end of the episode, so does Kai. At some point, Tabor is going to make the right choice. He is a Star Wars antagonist. Those sometimes take a while. Sometimes you gotta drag him kicking and screaming, but some of them eventually do redeem themselves. So yeah, I really felt like they did a great job using the helmet cam. This the close-up where you can just see the eyes, and that was a good device. I really appreciated the way the helmet was used this episode, because like he takes it off to say, yeah, it is me, and to Kai, and then he puts it on, and he only really takes it off after that to lie to Kai. And it does end up working, but it is this thing of like he is hiding his true self, and he is refusing, because he is hurt. Like he himself says, you said we can't be friends as long as I am a pirate. And he is at the point, that's sometimes when you've done something wrong, you might refuse to admit that you've done something wrong. And yeah, it's wonderful if there are people around you who have the patience. I have been unbelievably, it feels wrong to call it lucky, because like it's other people's decisions. I don't really want to attribute that to luck. I am grateful to all the people who have had patience with me when I've struggled, including sometimes admitting when I need to change my behavior. So it really is great that and in such a short time too, but yeah, this story, that half of the episode acknowledges that there is still hope for Tabor, but for now Kai has to be firm and yeah, not let Tabor get away with the part, and not, he doesn't, by the end he doesn't do a speech. He is just like, he's just walking away, and Tabor keeps saying, I'm not sorry, because he's refusing to accept, or at least admit out loud, that he has made a mistake and that he should do something different and maybe try to make up for that mistake, and yeah, I really appreciate it. Tabor might be my favorite character who isn't one of the good guys. I think it might be. You know, I mean, I probably don't even have to say, but yeah, I really, Liz is great. You know, just this love of nature. It's yeah, I really hope the show is able to inspire that in a lot of kids. That yeah, there is no planet B. And I guess that does pretty much cover. So usually in these videos these days, I make some sort of criticism of current day politics, especially Republicans, Trump and such. But I mean, I feel like, I don't know, what I've said about Tabor, a lot of it you can apply to Trump and his administration, other than the fact that I think certainly the war criminal in chief himself, I'm really not sure is going to, I feel like at this point it would have happened by now, but yeah, I'm not sure he's going to admit fault and change his ways. I would like to see it, but I think it's more likely that it's, you know, politically, non-violently, he will have to be removed. I'm not sure how much longer people are going to keep putting up with all of this. Yeah, like genuinely every single thing he does to try to assert himself or distract from, I guess I can't say that in a TV7 video, but you probably know by now. It's being talked about a lot, that there's a certain thing he's trying to distract from. But each of these just makes things worse. He just solidifies how much people don't like him. He's losing more and more support. Yeah. I look forward to, I have hope that in the future we will have more progressive leadership, especially now that the people are seeing just how bad Republicans can get. Because I do appreciate Trump is not, like, he's in some ways worse, but in some ways he's just more honest and even less competent than a lot of the others. Like, he's not some completely brand new thing. I do appreciate the establishment Democrats are not doing enough to fight back, and some of them are genuinely just saying, well, you have to follow the rules. They're not actually against the policy. Yeah, that's I am in some ways disappointed in many ways when it comes to establishment Democrats. I guess that pretty much covers. I feel like there's at least one thing I wanted to say. I felt like they did a good job making it kind of epic when Kai, catches up, and there's like the wind is blowing their capes, and they draw their weapons. Like, I know maybe I say this too much, but one of my favorite things about like original trilogy Star Wars, and you don't have to take my word for it, I'm not the first person to make this observation, and you can just go and actually look, like compare. Technically, in a lot of ways, the original trilogy is, and I suppose, perhaps especially A New Hope, but there are elements of it in the others. Yeah, I can never remember if it's called Weird West or Weird Western, but yeah, like a Western, but there's some element of it that is like, okay, that is decidedly not like a Western, And yeah, it felt very Western, the way that was filmed and set up. Like, it felt like a quick draw more than like, you know, the some of the many other genres that Star Wars dabbles in. I guess that pretty much covers. And I did also really appreciate that in order to beat Tabor, he has to focus. He can't just react, although it did feel a little bit like he was reacting when he ran off after Tabor, so it's a little bit, but no, yeah, I guess that's the moment in the episode where he decides, okay, he is going to really focus. He's not gonna, yeah. And I think I do also really appreciate this thing of like, so obviously I think it's extremely important that, I hope it's obvious, that, when we are, trying to make the world a better place, which we should devote a lot of energy to, that we do give leeway to people who are trying to do better. If like nobody comes out fully formed, like we are all works in progress, some further along than others, but instead of, I'm not saying there aren't lines. Like again, the episode does a good job saying, you know what, throughout this episode, Tabor keeps making the wrong decision, and by the end, Kai just walks off. That is sometimes what you have to do, but at times we do also have to show some trust and certainly empathy towards people who have made a mistake, and that does sometimes mean that they end up fooling us, and that sucks. That's very frustrating, but we can't completely give up on, like, there are almost no people that we should just completely give up on. There are just some people who need a lot of help, and I'm not one of those people who say that, everybody has to be able to be there for it. Like, if you can, that's wonderful, but if you simply can't, you have to take care of your own mental health, your own, like, I completely understand people who end up just saying, no, I cannot keep trying for this person, And yeah, I like the choreography in the first part of the episode, the chase across the trees and such. Perhaps in part because it reminds me of, it felt a little bit like Prince of Persia kind of thing, platforming, yeah. And yeah, really appreciate it. Liz trying to communicate with it and saying, hey, I'm sorry we messed up your home, and but look, we fixed it, and I'm so glad you're here to protect us, just, yeah. I think that does cover it for this one. So I do appreciate that, so Kai, there's going to be a vehicle chase, and technically that's not, that thing does not belong to Kai, and it's like they're like mechanicking on it, they're fixing it up. So he goes up and asks, would it be okay if I borrow this? Which is kind of like how it really reminded me of how The Simpsons Hit and Run is sort of Grand Theft Auto, but like they clearly made some decisions to make sure that parents would not complain about, what are you teaching my child? So you don't steal cars, which, to be clear, like, unless it's life or death, please don't steal a car, someone might need that for something extremely important. Anyway, you don't steal cars in that game. And right, at some point I will do a video on it. You don't steal cars in that game. You politely ask the driver if you could borrow it, and I think the driver like stays in the car or maybe even drives while you, I forget, but yeah, it's not the worst way to resolve that, and it does really underline, hey, Grand Theft Auto, really fun gameplay, and if you tone it down enough, hypothetically for all ages.